Hello, my name is Frankie Bradshaw and I'm a set and costume designer. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about designing for new writing. Working on new writing is a real privilege because no one is going to have any preconceived ideas about what the show should look like. You're working with a totally clean slate and it's you and your team that get to decide how this piece of writing translates visually for the first time. It's mostly the same as designing for any piece of writing, but there are a few things that are particularly important, and there are a few key questions that you should be asking yourself, and there are a few challenges that are unique to new writing that you should be prepared for. Your first priority when working with a new script is making the narrative and all the themes really clear and able to sing out as much as possible. This is the opposite end of the scale to designing for like Shakespeare, say, which is always endlessly and brilliantly reinvented to find new meaning in and to be made relevant to today. With new writing, it probably isn't the time to set the whole show in a different time period from the one written or place it all on Mars. But the joy is that you don't need to. This is already going to be a totally fresh world to delve into because no one will have heard this particular story before. It's already really relevant to our current world and it's already a vital voice that needs a platform to be heard from. Our job as designer is just to amplify and carry that voice. Designing for new writing is not about reinvention, it's about being true to the text and to carry it visually in the clearest way. It's about finding that world with your team and taking the audience there with you. So, with that in mind, we need to ask ourselves a question. Is it a naturalistic script, all set in one location, or is it much more concept-driven and the location less important? And design-wise, is it going to be most successful to head towards realism or conceptualism, or a mixture of the two? If the answer is A, realism, then this is your chance to truly show the audience in vivid detail a world they may have never seen before, or one that they will respond to with strong emotion precisely because they've seen it before. And with new writing and a script in development, this might be a brilliant opportunity to go on a research trip to this location with your writer and director. Going on a research trip whilst the writing is in development can be really brilliant. You'll all get inspired in different ways, and getting a feel for the world together is an amazing experience. For example, I designed a show for the Gate Theatre called Asata Taught Me by Kalunji Sabandake, which was all set in Havana in Cuba. And because neither me, Kalunji or Lynette, who directed it, had been to Cuba before, we all decided to go out there together. And I mean, how often do you get a chance to design for somewhere as incredible as Havana? I spent my time wandering around all the amazing old streets, taking a million photos whilst Kalunji and Lynette were talking to locals and finding out the story of the city. And all this research fed directly into the design when we got back. And I was able to give my scenic painter amazingly detailed paint references of the crumbling Caribbean colours everywhere. And we even took some recordings of people talking to listen to in the rehearsal room. However, for a number of reasons, it's often more successful with new writing to head towards a more concept-driven design. This might be because the script is multi-locational. It might be impossible to achieve a realistic version of all of the different locations within the script because of budget or stage space, or simply because transitionally it would slow the production down as it moves between locations. So instead you need to find a conceptual language that will support and frame all of these different worlds at once. It might be that more interesting than the location of the script are the themes of the piece, the challenges the characters face and the journeys they go on. Lynette has just done a great masterclass about the difference between theme and story, and to boil down her words of wisdom into a few lines, the difference between theme and story is that the themes are the subjects and ideas that the writing explores, and the story is what actually happens. And you know what? You don't generally need design to tell you what is happening on stage. The writing and the acting do that already. Design is used to breathe into and illuminate further the story being told. So stripping back what is unnecessary on stage and instead leaning into the themes of the piece as a springboard for your work is a really great place to begin a more conceptual design. Another reason for heading towards a more concept-driven design that is very important when working with new writing is that the script will still be in progress. The piece may not be finished when you start to design it. In fact, it may well not be written at all. It might just be an idea shared between a few people that you as a team are going to investigate together. This is great because it means you're in a position to shape the narrative with the writer and director. And maybe you might have a research and development week where you, the writer, some actors and other members of the production team might workshop a few different ideas together. Make friends with the writer, get to know them and their work and ask them questions. Get to the heart of why they are writing this script. Designing for a script still in progress is hard though. You'll probably have to design a space without the full knowledge of what the show will eventually include and provide a design that allows for a good deal of flexibility and wiggle room because the script will probably be continually rewritten right up until the press night. By the design presentation, the writing may well be in such a nebulous stage that you just need to design something that really conveys like the essence of the piece, rather than getting too specific. And that's where we go back to designing for the themes rather than the narrative, and also stripping back to only what is essential for the characters to tell the story. Building a playground of different levels and structures for the wider world of the play, rather than thinking scene by scene exactly what items are needed, is a great way to approach it. For example, a simple block might be much more useful and interesting than one specific chair because it can be used in all sorts of different locations. This opens the production up to something that is excitingly movement-led and actor-led as they begin to navigate a rehearsal set or mark-out in the room. You may even find that the design begins to inform, guide and influence the writing as the actors and directors respond to the design and discover new possibilities. So, for example, I've recently been designing for a show called Level Up, which will be opening at the Bush Theatre soon. It's written by Malachi Kirby, and without giving away too much about the design, I'm going to tell you a little bit about it because it's all of those things we've just discussed. It's multi-locational, its themes and fantasy worlds are more interesting than the locational realities, and it's also still in development. We wanted to create a space which is really minimal in terms of any furniture or structure, so that it would give our ensemble cast maximum space to move around. And instead, we focused visually on the electronic world of the play and created one big structure at the back of the space with a load of amazing practical lighting built into it that can transform and animate in all sorts of really swift and brilliant ways. It's one bold design statement that is versatile. Versatility is so important to create a flexible and transformative design. If you're able to create a space which allows for endless different scenarios to be played out in exciting and dynamic ways, you'll be on to a winner. So, what have we learned? Number one, the text is the most important thing. Whenever you're stuck for ideas, they will be in there. Number two, don't try and reinvent something that hasn't yet been born or overlay a concept where it isn't needed. Strip back to the bare essentials and work out what is most important about the piece and then amplify those things. Number three, get to know your writer. As ever, collaboration is key. Thank you so much for listening and have a great day.